Pleasure to be back doing these live streams after a bit of a holiday break. My name is Ram Iyengar, and I host a bunch of people who are involved with security stuff on behalf of the Open SSF. I tend to focus on security evangelism in the India geography, and the goal of bringing you these live streams is to highlight a lot of the amazing work that's going on with respect to the security domain, especially in India. We have a very special guest to kick off our 2025 edition. I have with me Aparna Hinge, who joins us today from the beautiful city of Pune, Maharashtra. Welcome to the show, Aparna.
Thank you, Ram. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, people who are joining from different geographies. I am Aparna Hinge. Yep. Thanks, Ram.
Yeah, Aparna, I just wanted to have a very casual conversation about who you are, what you do, what can we learn about security from a professional who's been doing it looks like almost all her life. And as we get into those things, why don't we start with who you are, what your background is, and we'll kick things off from there.
Absolutely, Ram. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself and talk about overall experience which I have in security. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, people who are joining and watching this from different geographies. I am Aparna Hinge. I am currently working as a principal product manager at CheckRed, which is a cloud security and SaaS security solution. I have had privilege of working in the security domain for almost 1.5 decades now, and I have actually seen the overall evolution of security from being a niche concern to a core pillar of the business. So I started my journey as a compliance research analyst, where I was working on analyzing the security guidelines for multiple technologies like operating systems, databases, network devices, firewalls, and so on, which actually made me realize that security is not just adding firewalls or making encryptions and everything. It's beyond that. It's not just applying firewalls and encryption. It's beyond that. It's actually a mindset. So today, also I had privilege working with industry leaders like Qualys for almost a decade, where I could contribute to their compliance line of products and work with multiple organizations to understand how they are pursuing security in general. And today I think we are going to put a lot of lights on, or we are going to talk about in general how the security goes, how it matters, and what we all can learn, do, and follow the practices to make this in general overall environment secure in terms of cyber or IT security. Yeah,
You bring forth a lot of interesting and important points, Aparna. I'm going to go through them one by one if you don't mind. So,
sure, sure.
you mentioned that a lot of the security work involves a cultural transformation. A lot of
Yes.
us imagine that to be somebody, wearing a hoodie, sitting in a dark room, wearing dark glasses in spite of it being dark, and typing something on a terminal. Can you highlight a little bit about what brought you to make such a statement? What is it about security that it makes it beyond people, beyond, I mean, beyond technology, beyond processes, and makes it about people?
Okay. So in I think security is just not a technical thing. It's not just a technical problem. People who are sitting wearing hoodie and making something and just trying to get into your environment, it's all about the mindset, I feel. It's like people who are trying to attack, is or people who are trying to harm the organization. They do have a different mindset, and people who are trying to secure your organization have a different mindset. and it's more than that. So we should adopt a security first approach in general in our day to day life as well. It's not just about securing your codes, softwares, organization, networks, and firewalls. It also actually it has to be actually in your day to day life, because we are also exposed to so many uh, we are now exposed to internet. So once you're on the internet, your entire life is on the internet. So security has to be a practice in every day, in every individual's life. That's what I feel. Yeah. And that makes me actually to make this statement, like why security is important in everyone's life, be it from the professional ground or be it from the personal ground. Yeah, that's, I think.
So, what's a good starting point then, in your opinion? Where do you think people need to focus as a start? So, let's say I'm an engineer. I maintain a couple of product lines for my company,
Hmm.
and my only brush with security, or when I talk about security, is few days before the release I'll put all the information out, saying this is what we're going to release, these are the github issues or whatever kind of issues that um, we're going to resolve, these are the feature requests, etc. And then suddenly one team will come from somewhere saying, oh, we did a security audit, these are the problems, you cannot release, and block it. So that's, in my experience, the most common interaction that all developers have with security. They hate it. There's not much they can do about it.
Yeah,
how
it's
should how should that change?
right, right. It's a very common scenario, Ram. In every organization who are dealing with multiple feature releases, product, even on services, it's a very common scenario which generally people see. Engineers are developing features, they are testing it, they are making a lot of changes, and then on the day of deployment, somebody from the security team comes and say, okay, you can't release this because these are the loopholes, or these are the security settings which are not actually configured into the code or the system which you are trying to deploy. And in general, in every company, this scenario is where engineers are very frustrated. Okay, so far I'm working on this is very important to get released. And I think as an engineer, or as engineers, they're often deep into the code. They are building features, they are solving problems, they are pushing codes to they're trying to reach the deadlines, and they are all in that mindset. And all of a sudden somebody is coming and telling, okay, you can't have this into production because of so and so security issues. And many a times security actually takes the back seat because of all these constraints, because
Hmm.
it's easier to focus on features that drive immediate value. However, in the rush to innovate, we often actually ignore or make some critical security mistakes there. The mistakes which I
Right.
see, which are very common, which I can list down right now, is thinking that security is an afterthought. It is something which has to be taken care at the end of the process. you know it is a very general practice we have seen so far. Like, people generally keep security at the end of the process, but in my opinion, security has to be in line, or maybe the first thing to be considered in overall your development life cycle, where your DevSecOps workflow comes into the picture, where it goes with your development life cycle, where security is taking place. For example, I mean, if we talk about, as you mentioned, like if you are deploying any code to production and without reviewing it, okay, there is a security loophole which we can see which have not been taken care during the development life cycle or at the first stage of it, and we have just released it. So of course that particular code is going to open a lot of doors for vulnerabilities and also to the attackers. So that is a one thing I think engineers generally do. Second thing, I think over relying on a lot of tools we use for security, where developers or engineers do not have any context as such. They do get a lot of alerts, they do get a lot of notifications from security teams, okay, these are the security issues, but they don't have context of you know what could be the potential implications of these actions.
Hmm.
So that has to be taken into consideration, where everyone in the team is aware why we need to pursue security, why we need to make some settings like this. So that understanding has to be there from everybody in the organization. It should not be just engineer, but it has to be from developers, it has to be from product managers, it has to be from the leader. So it has to be from everyone. So security has to be center of the process. That's what I feel. And why what engineers, also there are a couple of things I it just came to my mind. One is, relying on a lot of default settings. So when developers are creating any applications, or
Hmm.
they are trying to integrate with third party applications, we see nowadays, if you take SaaS into consideration, like SaaS applications, the adoption of SaaS, there are a lot of day in day out integrations are happening by using APIs. So engineers needs to understand that every application does come with default configurations, and many a times engineers leave, or many a times engineers continue with those default configurations. But if we have seen the record so far, the biggest challenge or the biggest reason for having any breaches or attacks are misconfigurations and relying on the default
Right.
configurations. So
Right.
that has to be taken into consideration, where default configurations are uh, changed based on the security practices or the configuration settings which have been proposed or published by vendors or security researchers out there. So engineers or security teams needs to take that in place.
So I think you put like very interesting points in the beginning and also towards the end here, which is that security should not be left like a last minute thing,
Yes.
and people need a lot of context in which the tools and the scans happen, and also should be aware of what configurations and other things they're putting. It looks like security then should be like a separate effort and not entrusted necessarily to a single developer. Because see, here's my opinion there. So we do a lot of things in terms of use these uh, git or some kind of version control at the start, and then use all of these tools to get set up, and use this wiki is where you'll document everything as you go along. And then if you have certain problems with setting up your environment, then download these bash rc profiles, for example, and then use these repos to set it up, and then this make file will give you this tool, that those set of install scripts will give you some other tool. So there's a lot of work that even I as a developer do in terms of helping others set up their environment and set up for development, but nothing about security. So is that something that, because security is such a big concern, that somebody else has to do it, or is it that as a community, as engineers, as technologists, it's just something that we need to change?
Of course, yeah, that's a very interesting topic. uh, I feel, in my opinion, being in the domain for more than a decade, I feel security has to be a responsibility. It has to be a shared responsibility. I feel
Hmm.
there should not be a single person. It's not possible a single person is driving the security effort in the organization. So it has
Right.
to be for each and every individual who is associated with the whole process. It shouldn't be just relied we shouldn't generally be relied on one single person who is telling you, okay, these are the security best practices you should be doing. No, it has to be a
Mm.
shared responsibility model, I feel, from the CEO to the junior level engineer. We have to make sure each and every individual understands the importance of security. There are multiple things we can do to make different teams aware about the security. In general, we talk about awareness, security awareness trainings. So I think every engineer, developer, tester, product manager, CEO, leader, everyone should go through this awareness training and understand why security is important from individuals perspective. If everybody is making their own effort, if everybody is putting their own effort in securing the organization, of course there will be very less incidences which can happen, or maybe the reduction time or the turnaround time would be little less, because many a time
Hmm.
we see the engineer, junior engineer, is just trying to put, they're trying to create a code, and there is authorization process or authentication process which needs to be integrated in the process, and there has to be put any username or password. So in general, that's very common practice. They put admin and put password 123, that's it. That's very common practice, nobody really cares about it. But people out there are also having that practice. Okay, this is a very common practice, let's try with this first. And if you do
Hmm.
this, they are into your environment. So
Right.
we have to follow the practices from top to bottom. We should give security awareness trainings uh, from every aspect, I would say, especially to engineers and developers, because they do have a lot of critical functionalities developing in the process. So I think that is a very important factor which every organization should be taking care of, training their entire team from the security point of view. And it has to be a shared responsibility model where
Got
everybody
it.
is responsible.
Got it. Got it. Okay, let's switch tracks a little bit. I want to get into a little bit of what CheckRed is and what you do as a company. Can you share a little information about that?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, thank you, Ram, for that. So, CheckRed is a cloud security and SaaS security solution. It caters to cloud security posture management and SaaS security posture management requirements. Also, it is into identity security fabric. So, it does not actually. I mean, CheckRed's aim is basically to help organization to have deeper visibility about their cloud and SaaS environments. And
Okay.
what we do have CNAP functionalities, we do have cloud security and SaaS security functionalities. Also, it helps organizations to enforce compliances and get more security insights about their organization. Yeah, in
And
short,
so,
we
do you
have.
do this through a combination of products, or do you work like a services, bit of both?
No, it's a product. It's a SaaS product where companies can, scan their environment, see what all misconfigurations they do have in their cloud infrastructure or on their SaaS landscape. It has coverage of, three cloud security providers: AWS, GCP, and Azure. While our customers scan and find out what all misconfigurations or security risks they do have into their cloud environment. And similar to SaaS, they do scan their SaaS environments, like they do scan Microsoft O365, Salesforce, Zoom,
Okay.
ServiceNow, and scanning these SaaS applications, they'll be able to find out what all security misconfigurations they do have. We provide them the alerts, or we provide them the misconfigurations which they have. Then there is guided remediation, how they can fix those misconfigurations and reduce their turnaround time. And also enforces the compliances like GDPR, HIPAA. Customers will be able to find out their overall compliance posture against these regulatory standards.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, in terms of this whole work that you're doing, uncovering a lot of insights, particularly related to security, what is a user journey like? So, people run scans, and then do they take them seriously, or do they just say, it's okay, we'll fix it later? And so what's people's response and attitude like?
In general, what I have seen so far is it's a combination, I would say.
Hmm.
And it is also depending on the tool, what data is tool, throwing to the security teams. If it's a more of noise, it's more of false positives. If there is a data which is not making feel engineer, okay, this is very important to be considered. Of course, people would not really take that seriously.
Right.
But tools like CheckRed and some other tools, if we are giving the right data to the customers, or we are giving right data to the right personas, maybe if a security analyst is sitting on the tool, they are getting the data and we are showing him the right data. Okay, these are your five top security risks which you need to figure out right away by giving them the priority, by giving them the criticality, I would say. and or severity, like okay, these are the five critical alerts which you need to fix right away. If you don't do that, these are the common implications, or these are the top implications you will face. So I would answer that in a way, it's depending on the tool, how the tool is giving the data to the consumers. If it makes them enough curious and furious, and curious both, I would say, by looking at the data, if engineer is furious, okay, these are the top issues I have seen in my environment, they'll definitely go and make the and take the actions to maximum time. I have seen people do take security as an important factor now. Back, I mean, if we compare back then I mean in like 2010, 11, or 2010, 10, 15 years back, people would not really think more on the security side.
Right.
It was just a niche concern, I would say, okay, we'll take care of it. But now I have seen that evolution where people are focusing more on the security for the business. So it is of course, one is depending on the tool, how data is being showed on the platform when they are scanning. They definitely take this seriously. It's evolving, people are taking security seriously now.
Good. And in terms of the life cycle where people are starting to do scans and things like that, are you seeing that they're doing more of this earlier in the release cycle, or is it still relegated to like the later parts, and they'll do it, sometime closer to release and things like that?
Yeah, the approach is now, I would say, if I have to put it in a percentage, it's now 70-30. I feel 70% people are trying to, or I would say 60-30, 60-40. Like 60% people are trying to incorporate security as a practice from the initial stage of life cycle. They are not really relying upon. I have seen that evolution actually. Back then, 10 years back, if you see, people were not really worried about. They used to take care of it after release is done and people are coming back with the
Yeah.
issues. Now the approach has been changed. People are, I mean, companies, organizations, considering the attack surfaces and how the digital landscape is evolving. Also, the different attack vectors are getting introduced every day in, day out, even considering the SaaS adoption, AI adoption, cloud adoption, everything. People are now considering security in the early stage of the life cycle. So they are incorporating all this. So a lot of companies are using CI/CD scanners. They are putting policy as a code. They try to scan everything when their code is being developed, and that's where your DevSecOps is coming. That's how the
Yep.
DevSecOps kept, catching the attraction or attention in the market now. So I think that that's being, I mean, that's increasing. People are adopting this, incorporating security in very early stage in the life cycle, product life
That's
cycle.
that's wonderful to hear, to be honest. So this perspective, I think, is extremely valuable because you've been doing security stuff before there was shift left, and before there was DevSecOps, and before people had the comfort of, let's say, running scans, for example. And I'm a big proponent of that. So whenever I say, here's how you build a container, just run a scan right after and know what has been built into your container and container image. And even a
Right.
small step like that is very key in providing a lot of visibility. So it's great to get your perspective because you've seen these two major movements happen in your time, and you seem to be of the opinion that there are some good positive results out of this whole exercise.
Yes.
So can you give us a comparison, so before this whole thing with shift left started, um, was it true that security was always in the fag end of the cycle, and people, what was that experience like versus what is it now? Are you seeing a little bit of change in terms of
Yes.
how people are approaching and what the impact has been? Give us a few
Yes.
details, please.
Yeah, of course. So I would just try to give you one experience what I have seen. So long back in 2013, 14, when I was part of a company, I could see once the release is out, the build is out in the production, we have seen couple of or some issues related to security, like uh, some encryption algorithm is not there, and we have failed compliance, we have failed audits. We so And then I have seen, like, once the production release is out, everybody is running around and fixing those issues and making that build workable for their customers or for their to comply with any audit or regulatory standards, and we are just running around and fixing that. And cut to 2024 or cut to 2022, 23, 24, I see every developer is very concerned about, okay, they are building the containers, they are building the code, there are tools which are helping you to scan your data during the development process itself, and they're fixing that. So that is happening as an ongoing process where developer is developing a code. SecOps team have already put in some scanner in place where developer can scan the code, they can find out the vulnerabilities or the misconfigurations. Then the ticket is being opened for the admins or the developers. They are fixing it. So of course, I have seen that shift from scanning the production release after it is in the production, then cut to doing the scans while the development is going on, fixing the vulnerabilities while the testing is in process. That shift, of course, I have seen. So it's happening in a good speed, I would say. I won't say it's very slow or it's very fast, but yeah, it's happening in a good speed where people are very much aware about fixing those issues during the life cycle itself. It's not the aftermath now. Still there
Nice.
is a improvement room, but yeah, that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think, come what may, there'll always be room for some improvement. But it's
Yeah.
good to know that, things are trending in the right direction and there's the right
Yes.
kind of awareness in terms of tools, in terms of techniques and things. I also wanted to chat a little bit about. I know you have extensive experience in SaaS based security, but like, what's the spread in terms of, there's a lot more problems typically with infrastructure, or there's a lot more problems with build and deploy and release artifacts, or there's a lot more problems with the front end in terms of vulnerabilities and things like that. So what's that like? And because you deal with like SaaS, you all of these will impact you, I guess, and that's where you sit. And um, can you tell us a little bit about, what continues to be the source of, most problems in the whole stack?
That's a very good question. As I mentioned in the first, I'm at the initial at the beginning of this talk. It's a mindset, I feel.
Yeah.
Because there are multiple things happening in the industry. Some people, I mean, most of the industries are now moving to SaaS. A lot of companies do have SaaS solutions, creating SaaS solutions for multiple requirements. So I think we have to work on the mindset first. We see I see the mac I mean, while working in the industry for so far, I feel the most common attack vector, or the most common attack uh, things which generally gets attacked is human behavior, I feel. We have to first clean, or we have to set the mindset first. Like, of course, you have to follow the security best practices. You have to make consider security in your mind while you are working on anything, be it a customer person, be it a developer or product manager or anyone. How it is going to impact the security of the organization or the infrastructure or the SaaS solution or the code you are developing. That has to be kept in mind. And that is the most common resource, I feel, in my opinion.
So what would be sort of steps that people can take to, educate themselves and eventually, start avoiding such patterns and mistakes?
Right. So, from the engineer's perspective, if I want to talk, is or any person in that a matter is, we have to learn the basics first. Maybe learn the fundamental concepts of security. Follow some. There are plenty, or there are bunch of articles, materials out there which generally people can follow. It could be OWASP. top 10 guidelines for developers or engineers. They can follow those practices. Also, engineers can learn from CIS, frameworks like CIS, NIST.
Hmm.
Also, they can learn about networking principles, they can learn about encryption, also learn about common vulnerabilities, generally what people can see. That is one of the basic thing I think everybody can do. Then they can extend their learnings towards identity and access management, because I think that is a very important aspect of any security. You put a lot of firewalls, you put a lot of encryption methods and everything, but if you're not taking care of your identity and access controls, all the efforts what you have been what you are doing could be, could go in vain if your super user account is exposed. So I
Right.
think understand identity and access management. um, then also, I think adopt automation. There are in current situation there are bunch of tools which helps to automate your security checks, be it in your CI/CD pipelines. If you talk about like Snake, GitHub security, it's very important. It's very recent tool which is gaining popularity. So that tools you need to learn about it and try to incorporate that during your day-to-day, engagements of developing any code or any software. And of course, have a continuous learning mindset. Try to learn new things every day, stay updated on the trends, recent security attacks. People can go through webinars, learn about articles, read about a lot of security magazines, and enhance and increase your overall knowledge about the security, what is happening across the industry. That way engineers, or I would say any employee of company or any person, individual person, can learn about the security and try to incorporate those practices in general in the life. Also people can go for certification programs, like there are bunch of programs like CISSP, AWS security, DCP security, and multiple vendors provided security certifications. They can opt to learn more about the security.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of valuable resources um, that you've given. I hope our listeners really try and take advantage. But yeah, thank you so much, Aparna, for taking the time and joining us here today to talk about security and give us a little bit of peek into what happens behind the scenes, especially for developers. And I mean, there's a second thing I have to thank you for, because very soon I think I'll submit a talk titled "Furious and Curious." So thank you for the inspiration. But I think this is going to be a very valuable recording for a lot of people in terms of learning what goes on into securing things, and also learning how to educate themselves and keep themselves in the know and things
Right.
like that. So yeah, thanks so much for that. um, where do you usually hang out? And if people have questions, can they reach you to chat
Yeah,
about
I
stuff?
yeah. So I will share my LinkedIn profile. Maybe people can reach out to me on LinkedIn. They
Sure.
can just drop me. They can just DM me, and they can, of course. I mean, it's more than welcome to answer questions whatever I'm getting. Yeah, just like as a closing remark, I would say security is
Hmm.
actually an ongoing journey. It's actually not a destination, and
Right.
every step we take, whether it is shifting security left, adopting the right tools, or maybe fostering a security first culture, it actually makes a difference. So as engineers, we have to have that responsibility to build a secure, or maybe I would say we should give the ability to developers or engineers to build securely, maybe innovate, and you know create that empowerment throughout the organization to think and act securely. That is what I feel. And everybody should keep that in their uh, day to day life in mind. Like security has to be the paramount of everything whenever they are working towards building lot of multiple applications.
Awesome. Thanks once again, Aparna. Thanks for joining us and taking some
Thank
valuable
you.
time.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Ram,
everybody,
for
for
having me.
watching this. If you enjoyed this stream, there's more coming next week. So, same place, same time next week, we have a session about security meeting the AI domain, which I think is, a very complex and interesting topic, and one that people would like to learn about. And then, we'll have more streams announced as we go along. If you're interested, do reach out. If you work in the security domain, we're happy to host you. There's a whole bunch of interesting things going on with the OpenSSF. We have our first in-person meetup of the year this weekend in Pune. So if you're in Pune and you'd like to take advantage of attending an in-person meetup about open source and security, just find us. Uh, I'll share links below, and yeah, look forward to seeing some of you there. And once again, thanks, Aparna.